The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Herron, and it is my pleasure to introduce our panelist tonight. She is a pistol instructor, gun range consultant, and board member of Women's Campus Carry Advocacy Program, Empowered. Please welcome Jara Hutchins back. What's up, Jara?
Hello. How are we doing?
I'm good. All right, so before we get started, it's just you and I tonight. It's a very romantic evening talking about guns and shooting people in the face.
I'm so stoked. I can't even tell you.
I'm so happy right now. All right, so first off, I just want to quickly talk about our advertisers, the Patriot Patch Company. We've got a big old banner on the wall in the studio. You can't see it. I don't even know why I said it. I just put it up yesterday, which it's still fresh in my mind. But Patch of the Month Club, one of my favorite things that I get in the mail every single week. And this month was the Colonial Pocket Dump. So it's like a what is it? Not a musket. It's what are those revolvers called, Jara? Not the revolvers, the old flintlock pistols. That's what I'm looking for. And a powder horn and the balls. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. But all of it on the patch. Very cool. Patch of the Month Club. They just basically sign up. Every single month, you get a new patch, a new sticker, and the artist card in the mail. It's like Christmas. Jared, do you collect patches?
I love patches. I love patches so much. Everyone's jealous of my patch wall. It's like enormous.
Dang. Are you a Patch of the Month Club member?
I am a Patch of the Month Club member.
Dang. What's your favorite one in recent memory?
Okay. Sometimes I forget which one the Patriot Patch Company sends me because I order so many too. But I liked that one that you just talked about. You kind of lost me at locking balls. I don't really know where you were going with that, but
and then the projectiles. I don't know flintlocks or musket loaders or muzzle.
And then you came on.
Do I
need to leave?
The legs up, the pants are off. We were having a moment. Now you're here.
Well, don't tell the wife. Don't tell the wife.
We were talking about Patriot Patch Company, and check them out, patriotpatch.co, and also Manticore Arms. If you're on our the Facebook or the Instagram of We Like Shooting, I talk all the time about the night break from Manticore Arms. It's a half-by-28 muzzle break, and it's awesome. Like I talk about it all the time. It's $57.95. And you can even get a 10% discount by using coupon code TWG10. Go check out the video. It's like so incredibly flat shooting, no problems whatsoever, incredibly inexpensive, and just works. That's manticorearms.com. Coupon code TWG10. We had a late arrival. He's the owner and founder of No Other Choice Firearms Training and the man behind Aiming for the Truth, a community outreach program that's growing rapidly and having a profound impact. Kevin Dixie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I do apologize about the miscommunication. I'm normally a very punctual person, but thank you for being patient.
No problem at all. I really wasn't that patient because I straight up started the show without you.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's who you are, so it's still you being patient.
You always say the sweet things.
I was waiting on the link. I promise you I was. But anyway, but me here now is going to make it awesome. So let's rock.
You're here. Jara's here. She's got no pants on. It's a party.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't have any pants on because I'm drinking Adios Pantalones beer.
Ah, okay.
That's now it all makes sense. Now it all makes all the sense.
That means pants are for losers in Spanish.
I love it.
Really? Okay. Learning something new every day.
Kevin, it doesn't mean that at all. It means goodbye pants.
Well, either way, the pants are gone. So,
all right. Before I get in trouble, let's go ahead and start the first story. Texas woman shoots man in the face as he's tried to steal her car with her kids inside. So, she's sitting at a gas station, putting gas in the car, sees a guy crawling into the driver's seat, jumps into the back seat, pleads with the guy to stop doing what he's doing. She's got 2 of her kids in the car. He does not stop. He keeps driving. She gets in the glove box, pulls out a gun, shoots him directly in the face. He crashes the car into a ditch, gets out and collapses in the street. That's the story. Like, what do you guys have to say about it?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay, cool. Let me tell you, I was stoked. I really was. I was stoked that she had the nuts to get it done. The one thing I'll say about it though is a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I've said on the show before, is I really hate it when gun owners eat their own. And a lot of the comments on social media about this, a lot of people were like, well, why were the doors open when her kids were in the car when she was getting gas? I mean, it's like she was right there.
Do you lock your doors when you get
gas? I mean, I don't know. I don't know anybody that does that. I mean, I guess now she will probably rethink that. But I mean, just her taking action, her having the gun, her knowing how to use the gun was in the glove box away from the kids. There were comments about that. I'm just like praising her quick reaction, and her, she did everything right. I saw a lot of comments about the legality of it. They were saying, well, I hope she gave a verbal warning because she's probably going to go to jail if she didn't. Bullshit. Okay. I'm pretty sure that dude entering vehicle with kids, trying to kidnap kids overrides, hey dude, please don't take my kids. Bam. Yep. It just doesn't. But so the one thing I loved the story because I hated that it happened to her, but I loved the quick reaction. I loved her using her Second Amendment rights to protect her kids. But I hate it when stories come out like that because it's just like, it seems like every 4th or 5th comment is just a gun owner trying to eat another gun owner and like, well, I would have done this differently, or if you did this never would have happened, or whatever.
Not me. You talk about shooting in the face, I'm in. Kevin?
Yeah, man. I agree with you. I think we do eat our own too much. And what I will say to that is this. First, what people should understand. So if you're listening, I don't expect everybody to keep up with laws and really know all that stuff. But understand something. There's a definition of deadly force. All right. And when you look up the definition of deadly force and how it's applied in laws and or serious physical injury, you are allowed to use presentation of a firearm alone is deadly force automatically. Okay. Whether you pull the trigger or not. So when somebody puts you in a situation of serious physical injury where you can substantially prove that serious physical injury was imminent and or it's in a case of a forcible felony or it's deadly force and a substantial risk can be proven it was there, you are allowed to respond with deadly force, you keyboard lawyers. So you getting into a car with some children, especially if the state has a good, which I believe they do, have a pretty decent castle doctor-in-law, you just broke and entered, all right? So you get into the car and then you're going to drive off. The last time I checked, kidnapping is a forcible felony.
True.
So mom could shoot him in the face. And
but the thing is, I do expect people to keep up with laws if they're going to be gun owners. I think people should know that.
I think what they wind up doing is they have this, and this is the onus I will put, and I'm not eating my own. I always put it on people. The cool thing about firearms is because they are so great. Like when people go shoot them, they're like, oh, awesome. And what I always tell people is that I'm glad you're having a great time. That's what we want. We want everybody smiling and getting into it. At the same time, after the excitement wears off, I want you to remember that anybody can drive a car. I can literally put a 10-year-old that's never started a car before in a vehicle. They can put it in gear and they can make the car move. But it doesn't mean you actually know how to perform and you understand everything around it, right? So it's like just because you can operate a car doesn't mean you can drive a car, and just because you own a gun doesn't mean that you're proficient with everything that comes along with it. And some of that is not just your split times at the range. A lot of that has to do with your knowledge and application of what you can do. So I agree. They should know. I just found it that unfortunately, especially as an instructor, people don't do as much research as I would like them to. And so it always kind of makes me, I normally just log off when I start seeing people doing the things you're talking about. Oh, what if she would have, or what if she could have? Look, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm very protective over my family. The story I tell about a guy attempting to murder my family was at a gas station. And I go to the gas station. I'm right there at the pump. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't lock my doors. I don't. Half the time my windows are down and my kids are bothering me while I'm trying to get the few seconds of peace at the pump. Just to be alone. So I don't agree with that. But I think that overall, kudos to mom. I understand some people are like, well, why does she have the gun in the glove box? Look, the woman used a firearm in a legal application to save her kids. What better story is there? Leave her alone. Mama Bear did what Mama Bear is supposed to do.
Exactly.
Done.
All right. So here I got a couple things to add here. Excuse me. First off, this is the most profound example of the pure Second Amendment that I have seen in a very, very long time. She had just gotten this gun. She has no permit to carry. She bought the gun to defend her life, and she immediately, hours later, apparently had to use it to defend her life. There was no classes, there was no education. It is the most pure application of the Second Amendment in a news story that I have seen in a very, very long time. She bought the gun. She protected herself and her family with that firearm, period. No classes, no knowledge of concealed carry laws, no knowledge of self-defense laws, no knowledge of jeopardy, ability, opportunity, or preclusion. Just straight up gun, cartridges, and shooting somebody in the face that tried to do her wrong. I think that is fantastic. She said, I'm not a killer or anything, but I do believe in defending what's mine. She said she only meant to fire a warning shot, but wishes she would have emptied the entire clip. That's their word, not mine. Magazine, we all know that.
But wasn't it a revolver?
I don't know. I didn't see that actually anywhere.
I thought I read that it was a revolver. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's me eating my own. Forget it. I'm not saying that.
Am I an evil person for when I first heard where the guy got hit? You know, I immediately yelled in the face. You know, I was kind of like, you know, I really don't say, I can't say, and I'm all about hence no other choice. I'm all about making sure you don't have to resort to violence unless you absolutely have your back against the wall. But I'll tell you what, trying to take my babies, that's about as against the wall as you can get. So good for Mom, man. I think it's awesome. I did not know, and you know, I can always count on Sean for having the inside information. He's like an insider of the gun world, to know some of the small details. So I didn't know that she had just got the gun. I didn't know she didn't have any. Which I
didn't know that either.
Yeah, so that's you're right, man. That is pure. That is as pure as it comes. That's awesome.
Pure 2A, man, right there. And then lastly, eating our own. I'm a huge proponent of if I see bad behavior, whether they're on my side or not, I will absolutely call it out because I think that's important. I think if we try to hide things that we don't agree with, it makes us just like the side that we rail so much against. Mm-hmm. So I'm totally fine with eating our own when it applies reasonably. However, I will also say that in this situation, like we always armchair quarterback these things. And I think that there's a profound exercise that we do when we do that. Look, as long as we understand that we cannot understand what was going through her mind when she sees a strange man get in her car and start to drive away with her 2-year-old and her 4-year-old who are strapped into their car seats in the backseat of her car. I have no idea what I would do, even though I've thought about things like that and tried to plan for things like that. But, you know, armchair quarterbacking, like I get it. I understand that. The problem is that people don't do it constructively. They try to do it because of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They assume because they have a very small amount of applied information that they're experts on the topic. So if they just, you know, phrased things differently and talked about things maybe with a little bit of questioning instead of profound authority that they really don't have, I think we would all be better off as a community. And again, if you see bad behavior, call it out. And that's the way I think that we try to improve it.
I would agree totally.
I agree.
All right, guys, next story. Illinois couple charged in a string of bank robberies using a stolen AK-47. Excuse me. So this pair was charged. They basically stole it and did 3 armed takeover bank robberies in a 3-week period. They've now been arrested and charged. And they stole the AK-47 rifle and rented different vehicles. And just kind of interesting. So you always wonder what happens when a gun gets stolen. And if you're in the gun world and you have a bunch of friends that own guns, you very often do see things like, got my gun stolen. If you be on the lookout, if you see this serial number or this gun or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those situations where, you know, a stolen gun is used for evil. No murders, no injuries, but very well that could have changed like instantly. Thoughts, Kevin?
I think that it's unfortunate that a gun was stolen. And you're right. We do try to make sure that when something unfortunate happens to a gun owner, we try to all step up and help out. And if we see it, report it, you know, get the authorities involved. I do think that it hurts me a little bit to know that it was stolen because you know how people will spend that, right? Because what they're going to spend it to is a stolen assault rifle. is used to blah, 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 right? And we know that's not the correct term, and we know that's unfortunate, but that's how they're going to spend it. So one thing I will challenge out of this story is, you know, what they did is what they did. I'm glad they're caught. But one thing I would challenge people to, and this is something that I have my face smacked from time to time about. I don't know how the gun was stolen, so I'm not going to pretend to quarterback it because I don't know where it came from. I don't know how they got it. And I'm admitting I don't have that information. What I will say is, if you own a gun, please, for the love of God, own a safe. Just, you know, I got into a very polite debate with fellow gun owners, good people, and, you know, about, well, you know, I don't believe in having a safe in my car. I don't believe in doing that. I believe I should just be able to lock it up if I go to the ball game and that be it. And I'm like, oh man, you're not helping the argument though, because if somebody gets a hold of it, now that's just another seed that they get to plant to say that we're irresponsible, right? So I don't know how the gun was stolen. I hate it was. I wish they could have prevented it, but I mean, it happened. It happened. But just to make sure that you're doing the best you can to make sure your gun's not part of the story. That's what I would say to that.
I like it. Jara?
I mean, I don't know that I can necessarily expound on that too much more. You know, quit leaving your guns in the car. You know, I mean, playing your dad. You know, I think that one of the best things that as an instructor you can teach people is that the gun is necessary, but it may not always be the best option. So I throw a little time management in there and like, you know, what's your day going to be like? You know, do you really feel like you're going to need a gun that day? I mean, what about a Kimber pepper blaster, or what about a knife, or what about, you know, something that might be a little easier to keep on your person? You know, rather than having to lock a gun up in the car and for it to potentially be stolen. But on the flip side of that, I don't really feel like it's necessarily our responsibility all the time to prevent people from stealing. You know, I mean, if they're gonna steal something, if they want something, they're going to do everything that they can to get it. I get trying to, you know, make it harder. I get trying to secure it, especially if you have kids at home. I totally understand that. I do not have kids at home. But I just don't feel like it's necessarily our responsibility to take responsibility for someone else's bad behavior.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I will expand on what Kevin said. I totally agree. Like, security through obscurity doesn't work. Like, have your guns locked up. You know, if you can't afford a safe, like figure something else out. Be clever. Sometimes being clever is better than being well off as far as financial means go. Next story: conservative students lead pro-2A marches in 10 cities. This is kind of a good one. This is comes to us from the Washington Post. This says that this is happening Saturday. It was published on July 7th. I think this is definitely a good thing. In my opinion, this happened last Saturday. It's good to see students out there. Like, we constantly get bombarded by #Hog and his ilk. And I've said many times that I think he's such a complete douchebag. I cannot stand that kid. And look, you put yourself in the public eye, that's what you get. You get torn up sometimes. Just hearing him talk in some of these interviews and being so incredibly just critical of the people around him, the adults around him, and just, I don't even know how to exactly put it in words, but it's good to see the other side of that, because I never knew any kids like #Hog. You know, for me, it was always like, I knew a ton of people, whether they were anti-gun, anti-bike, anti-drug, well, like whatever it was. I never knew anyone like that. I just knew normal everyday kids. And it's good to see normal everyday kids kind of getting out there, organizing a bit, and kind of coming at this from another angle. Jared, do you have thoughts on this one?
I do. You know, first of all, David, you know, a lot of the thoughts that come out of David Hogg's mouth are not his own. I mean, he's a puppet. He's regurgitating thoughts from people who have an agenda, and he's being used. And I think that we in the gun world, we know that. And I think that the kids that are taking a stand for the Second Amendment and taking a stand for their liberty, I think that they're doing their generation a huge favor, because at the end of the day, it's not really necessarily about the gun. It's about what's around the gun, and what's around the gun is liberty and freedom. That's what that means. And we have a government, we have leadership that that likes to use clever words and clever tactics to try to gain power and take those liberties and freedoms away from common, everyday, middle-class Americans. And they're doing it because they're power hungry and they're greedy. And we know that. And so I think that the kid, whoever these parents are that are raising these kids, are doing a wonderful job because, you know, when do you start having those conversations with your kids? I don't have kids, so I don't know. But I know that, you know, my grandfather was an immigrant and came here from Sicily. And he started talking to us about at a young age about freedom and what that means and how to use that freedom and how to be a productive citizen and how to take accountability for yourself and how to protect yourself. And that was really, really important. And it really, you know, at the time, you know, we were all kind of like, whatever, Grandpa, but it's planting a seed, right? That's going to grow and you're going to remember those conversations later. And I would hate to see the future. I would hate to see the kids now have a future where they don't have any freedom to make decisions for themselves. And I think that this is the start of that generation kind of making that stand against a lot of brainwashed kids, a lot of their brainwashed peers that don't see the incredible advantages to being a free people.
I like it. Kevin?
That was well said, young lady.
You.
You're welcome. Ditto to everything she said. And I would say that to see the young people out speaking that are adverse, and I forget what's the young lady's name that's been making headways lately. She had the graduation cap. Will come taking on it. I forget her name.
And she had the AR.
Yeah, had the AR walking with her.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
AR-10, Katie, I don't remember.
Katie something. Yeah. But you know, like her, just to see the youth be involved. But one thing I will say about not that I like anything that they do, but you know, I have to give credit where credit is due. They are a well-oiled machine. They have David Hogg, and you're right, he's definitely a puppet. They have David Hogg in inner cities now, claiming to care about everybody's struggles. He can't even keep up with some of the euphemisms he's throwing out him damn self. It's crazy, right? He is, but they are trying to feed him and make him such a likable figure and a figure that transcends some spoiled rich kid in a high school where a very tragic incident happened and how he's trying to gain from it. You know, it's very, very alarming. But then I get satisfied when I hear about young people, you know, because they're the future. When I hear about them saying no. We understand that it sucked. We understand that it was horrible and that an evil person did it, but we still believe in preserving our rights. I'm glad people like your grandpa had those conversations. I'm glad people, when they finally got their hands on me when I was 21, you know, educated me on, hey, you just see a gun, but you don't see what's behind it. I'm glad they grabbed me and gave me an education. I'm glad for people like that, and I'm glad that the youth are out there making sure that they protect our rights, because a lot of people, and I think what's misconstrued about all of us, including our young, is that the fact that all we're protecting is a gun. That's just not true. And I know we all know that. We're protecting a lot more. The gun is just the cap. And if I let you break the cap off, you're just going to come in here and just do whatever you want. And we don't want that to happen. So I'm glad that the youth can see that. I'm glad they want to preserve their rights. I will say that we need to do whatever we can, whether, you know, no matter where you are in the country. If you can support that, I don't care if you just give a bunch of kids a ride or you donate $10 to their gas tank where they can get up there and get back, or you buy a couple of kids lunch. You know, college kids, sometimes it can be really tough. If we can help out a little bit, make sure we help them out. But no, I love it. I love it. Absolutely.
Well put, guys. All right. So Kenny, our producer, just texted me. Caitlin Bennett is her name.
Caitlin Bennett. Okay. Go Caitlin. That's my daughter's name too. Caitlin rocks.
Love it. So guys, I have to come at this from another angle just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. So we mentioned that Hogg is a puppet. I totally and completely agree with that. These marches are put on by an organization called March for Our Rights. Mm-hmm. You can Google it and the website comes up. They've got a Facebook page as well, Freedom Rights National Headquarters. Would you say that maybe these teens are also kind of being influenced by external influences? Such as this March for Our Rights organization, which I don't know anything about. Couldn't really find anything about them. But is it kind of the same thing on another side? Are we using our kids in both directions as a society?
Yeah, and we should, because they're the future. I mean, You know, I think it's really important to, I mean, I have nieces and nephews, and, you know, I have young kids that I influence. All my friends have kids, but I think that we can establish and communicate and verbalize our beliefs to our kids, but at the same time, we do need to encourage them to think for themselves. And that was an incredible advantage that I had in my family. But not all kids have that. A lot of kids are being pressured by their parents to believe a certain way, and that's the only way that there is. And I think that that's a big clash between teenagers and parents is the parents are like, oh my gosh, you're wrong if you don't think this way. And then the kids are trying to figure it out for themselves. But then the kids don't really have enough life experience to be able to draw any structural data off of anything. So they're just, all they have to go on is what they're hearing around them. You know, so how difficult is it, especially now, to be a teenager? You have all these different influences. You have all these different vehicles. Teenagers are getting content in so many different ways than we did when we were younger, than our parents did when they were younger. And they're trying to digest that and come out with a conclusion and a belief system that they feel is right for them with all these pressures surrounding it. So I get what you're saying. And I think that there's a difference between using our children and trying to influence our children to help preserve a future.
Kevin?
I believe that, unfortunately, the young people with the March for Our Lives are being used as puppets. And the kids that are involved in March for Our Rights are being used as repellent. They're being used as the truth. Because if you're going to, you know, in war, you have to be smart. Me and us, all three of us, if we get up, even on a great stage, and keep calm and everything else and as nice as can be, and we start debating a 17-year-old, we're going to look like bullies either way you paint it. Either way it goes, we're going to look like bullies. They're going to use all kind of sensitive words to make us seem like we're mean adults and things like that. So when you can get people that look like them, their peers that disagree with them, I think it evens the playing field. And I don't think anything's wrong with that, because I do believe, had they not weaponized children, we didn't have to weaponize the truth. So that's how I approach that.
You're really right about that. You bring up a good point. You know, I was on a news panel. I was on a 2A panel a few months ago on one of the local news stations here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And one of the panelists was a 17-year-old high school kid who organized a walkout for gun control. And he admitted that he honestly knew nothing about guns. And so when I brought that up to him, I was like, why would you not try to educate yourself on both sides of the issue before drawing a conclusion that we need to just eradicate and eliminate firearms? And he was like, well, I've never taken a gun lesson. I've never really been around guns. I don't really know anything about it. And I'm like, why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? I mean, all you have to do is learn. You're doing that in school all day anyway. This is just another thing to learn. It's not hard, but we want to sit around and say, well, I don't know anything about that, so I fear it. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know anything about this religion, so I fear it. I don't know anything about this race of people, so I fear it. I don't know anything about this firearm, so I fear it. And that's just lazy to me. If you want to know about it, go know about it. And then after that, if you still hate it, well, that's your prerogative. But you're totally right that, you know, when we're sitting next to a kid who, and that's one of the things that I've said in the past too, is a lot of times when we are fighting for the Second Amendment, when we are preaching about the Second Amendment and why it matters, we're often doing it in the midst of someone else's pain. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's tough. Because you often look selfish when you do that, because you're saying, hey, these are my rights. I don't want you to encroach on my rights. But you're telling that to a kid that had to walk over the dead bodies of his classmates, or you're telling that to a mother who had to bury her child because she got shot by an active shooter. You know, it's really rare that you have these parents like that guy in Florida who lost his daughter, and he's like, hey, I don't blame the gun, I blame the person. Very rarely do you have people that have that kind of emotional logic. Right. You know,
one of my favorite quotes is attributed loosely to Anselme Batby, and it's, if you're not liberal when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not conservative when you're old, you have no brain. One of my favorite things ever. Ohio woman charged with straw purchase of a rifle used in attempted robbery. I say very often, no new gun laws. Why don't we just enforce the laws that we have on the books? And it looks like Jeff Sessions has said they're going to renew focus on prosecuting cases involving buyers who lie on federal background check forms. And this seems to be the deal. A Cleveland woman has been indicted. She went to a Sherwin Shooting Sports in Eastlake, Ohio, bought a Smith & Wesson M&P 15, which is an AR-15 pattern rifle. And a week later, they recovered the same rifle at a Willoughby Eastlake Schools credit union during an investigation into an attempted robbery. She has been charged, and good. Thoughts, guys?
How is this not an open and shut case? You know, this kind of shit makes me so mad. Okay. I don't understand. What's the statistic? Like 1% of straw purchases are ever convicted or even prosecuted. That's silly to me. That is one of the largest ways that people commit crimes with guns, stealing them and getting other people to buy them. And if the gun situation is such an epidemic, that's why. Okay, that's why. So renewing the focus is bullshit because the focus should have never gone away from that in the first place. Okay, Trump having to come in and tell these government agencies to do their jobs by reporting people who end up knucking butts in the military. Okay, Trump having to come in there and tell them to do their jobs is stupid. It's absolutely dumb. Sessions having to come say, well, we're going to renew focus on actually punishing people for doing bad crap. These are the people that are running our country, and it makes me so mad. I just want to set them all on fire.
And all right, I like that, Kevin.
I just want to give her a hug, but she doesn't have any pants, so it's weird.
It's weird for who?
Well, okay, I'll save myself. So, when we look at A, once again, ditto. I mean, you're on fire, lady. I will say that.
No, they're on fire. He's gonna light him on fire.
They're all.
The focus on now. So I just spent 2.5 hours a couple of weeks ago debating the St. Louis chapter of Mom Demand Action. Right, 2.5 hours. Supposed to go 2 hours, went 2.5. And one thing that I was trying to get them to understand is they wanted gun laws. I'm like, you already have gun laws. Like, well, when people leave the guns around kids, there is no gun law saying that they should go to prison if the kid picks up the gun and does something. I said, well, I'm not going to too much judge what should happen to a parent that loses a child. I'm not going to do that. What I will say is this: there is a law called endangering the welfare of a child. It doesn't matter if it's with a kerosene or a gun. You can be charged with that. So there are already laws out there that exist. They have to be enforced, though. So coming where I come from, the environment when I was in the prisoner processing division of the city PD, I would tell people all the time, I'll be looking at a guy's AR with his arrest record. I'll be looking at the arrest record. I'm like, if half of this is true, I'll see you in 15 to 20. Half of it, right? I'm out getting a burger 2 weeks later. Guess who's standing behind me? You know, like, we don't enforce laws. So I'm glad to see that somebody that committed a straw purchase is being held accountable. They should be held accountable, and they should be held accountable more often. Now, this whole thing about we're going to refocus, what I want is an apology. I want an apology from the government to say, we've allowed this gun control debate and more gun laws to get out of control because we weren't doing our job. There are plenty of laws on the books. We decided not to enforce them. America, we're sorry we failed. No different than Parkland. That was a clear failure on the government. So if we start involving them and we start prosecuting people, why isn't she splattered all over the news? Her face should be everywhere.
I would agree.
You know, they want to post if a guy goes and does something crazy, we want to blast him everywhere, right? So when we actually have a law that's not used a lot, that's enforced, let's show it. That way the world can see, that is illegal.
And on top of that apology, I want XYZ politician to say, look, I'm not going to refocus dick, okay? I'm cleaning house, okay? I'm getting all these lazy MFers out of here, and we're going to replace them with people who care, people who are on point, okay? We're going to take care of them. We're going to make sure they like their job, okay? And we're going to fix this, and we're going to fix it now. We're not going to fix it 4 years from now. We're not going to wait for Congress to convene. We're going to have a special legislative session where we're going to sit here in this room until it's fixed, okay? Until it's absolutely done. because I'm tired of the refocusing. I'm tired of the clever words. I'm tired of the tactics. I'm tired of all of that. I just want it to be done. And these people are going to make me run for office, and they ain't going to like it. I'm telling you right now.
Well, if you guys like that one, you'll love the next one. Florida FFL found guilty of selling to known straw purchasers and felons. So we had the one lady get convicted of straw purchases. Now we've got a federal firearms licensee from Florida, 51 years old. So it's not like he's 10 and doesn't know any better. Faces up to a decade in prison after transferring 3 firearms, including a pistol and 2 shotguns, to a confidential informant in a St. Petersburg store. It basically showed that he had a reputation of selling to prohibited individuals, and now he is facing the piper. And good. Enforce the laws. Let's get rid of these pieces of garbage that are ruining it for the rest of us.
But how long has this been happening? Because it's been happening long enough for him to have a reputation for it.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me.
Yep. And my guess is a long time.
See, that's what I don't understand. And now, one thing I will say is I know firsthand that the ATF is severely understaffed. Okay? Yeah. So if you want these gun laws to work, then you've got to put people on staff in the agency that, that regulating entity that's going to take care of this, right? That's probably part of the reason why it's taken so long. But it's concerning to me now. 95% of FFLs, in the United States are never going to do that, never knowingly going to do that. Okay. But that small percentage of people that do, how is it taking so long for them to get caught? It should be really easy to trace back how a person got a firearm if they bought it from an FFL. I mean, you have to fill out paperwork for that. Let's get it done. Let's quit waiting years and years and years for this to be just saturated with people who are buying guns illegally or for terrible purposes, and just get it done. Just let me run the ATF. I'm ready.
I love it. Man, that I believe this. I'm glad they got caught. May he go and get every single day he deserves. I have no empathy. And here's why. A lot of people are like, oh, Katie, don't be so mean. He just broke the law. He's going to serve his time and do his justice. You're dealing in firearms, sir. So what did they do with the gun you sold them?
Yeah.
What family was held in terror, or what person was held at gunpoint because you allowed that instrument to be sold to someone who shouldn't have had it, and you knowingly did. So it's not like the guy passed a background check and you just didn't like his mustache. I mean, you clearly knew that these people were doing the wrong thing. So, yeah, no sympathy. May he rot.
Totally, completely agree. 10 people with gang ties charged in California for making guns illegally. So they mentioned in the article that they were making ghost guns, or homemade firearms produced without serial numbers or background checks. It mentions later in the article that they were 80%ers. They were also caught with, a suppressor and a bunch of illegal California illegal magazines. Oh, and 3 pounds of meth. But stuff like this is kind of weird, right? Because I have a bunch of 80% receivers, mostly pistols, mostly polymer 80. I make those things like it's, I don't know, more often than I change underwear, it seems. So once every 6 months. But the 80%ers, they're awesome. I love them. And I don't love them because they're ghost guns and no one can ever see where I bought it. I love them because they're actually fun to make. It's fun to put your hands to polymer, put your hands to steel, put your hands to aluminum, and actually come out with something that's good. But then there's also this dark side where there are apparently criminals doing this. There's a gang or gang members and 10 people who actually did it. And sometimes I wonder, how do we as gun owners rectify those two things? And Kevin, I'll start with you.
Well, I think I know they're taking advantage of a product that exists, but I also think that, just like they're clever enough to figure out how to finish the lower, they're clever enough to make a gun. I mean, you see those all the time, zip guns. You can look at the people, which is a trade that's known over here too. But if you even look at the Philippines, a lot of 1911s are made out of raw steel and fire. I mean, those guys just know what they're doing. So you look at a lot of that. People are going to get the skill set to do what they want to do. They're going to go whatever avenue they have to go to. So it is unfortunate they're abusing it. But I like the concept of polymer 80. I don't want to see them go anywhere. I don't want to see any restrictions put on their product. I think that you just have someone who was doing the wrong thing, taking advantage. Now, I do believe this. You got them. They weren't allowed to have guns, right? Gang members, California, for Christ's sake. Arrest them, lock them up, put them away, do things. So that was my spiel. No sympathy. That's my doorbell. You know what's going on. Give me 1 second.
Jara?
I mean, you got to be smart. Meth heads are smart, okay? I mean, you got to be a freaking chemist just to make that crap.
True.
You know? I mean, I just think that this is just another, I don't really have a lot more to expound on it. I think it's just another classic example of, you know, people breaking the law. It's always going to happen. We live in a sinful society. Thus, the necessity for 2A. I mean, you just...
Every time someone gets behind the wheel of a car and has had too much to drink and basically ends up murdering somebody because of that, we don't want to outlaw cars. So I asked the question, how do we as gun owners, kind of justify our choice that, 80%ers are okay? What's exactly that? Just because some people choose to use them illegally and for violence and for evil doesn't mean that the rest of us should have to do without those things. Bump fire stocks, dumbest things ever. I have 2 of them sitting in my garage in a bin. I hate them. They're dumb. I will never sell them now because I want to own them just purely because I can. And because one maniac decided to hurt people with it doesn't mean that I should be taken of the privilege of having those things. And
they're really not that cool.
No, they're dumb. I hate them. I hate them. But you try to take them away from me, and I will fight to the death. So it's just, I don't know. It's honestly just silly. But all right, so that'll do it for the positive stuff. Let's move into some negative stuff. CDC states heroin deaths surpassed gun deaths for the first time ever. This comes to us from the Washington Post. Excuse me. And I am very interested in this. People always want to say that gun violence is like the biggest problem we have in this country. We all know, people who pay attention to the Second Amendment and crime statistics, we all know that it's not true at all. This is basically data coming from 2015, and it says opioid deaths continue to surge, surpassing 30,000 for the first time in recent history. So not only is it gun deaths, but they've surpassed gun deaths, including suicides, including gang violence, including everything else. I don't see #hog out there marching for a cure to the opioid epidemic. No, people are just interested in whatever they see on the news, whatever the mainstream media feeds them and pumps directly into their brains via the television set. And guys, there's bigger problems in this country than violence perpetrated with guns. As a matter of fact, almost every problem in this country is bigger than violence perpetrated with guns. And Kevin, this is opioid crisis. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, opioids, drugs in general, man, but especially with the latest wave, is unfortunate. I think that it's a problem that we need to get people help with, right? I mean, drug addiction in general is something that's real difficult to deal with. I do think with all the energy that's focused on human beings, right? Because if you're going to say that we want to make human beings better, so if your argument is let's restrict the Second Amendment because we want to keep people safe, let's take this right away because we want to keep people okay. Well, at least be honest with your rhetoric. So what are we going to do about the drug problem? So all the energy that you're pouring into arguing about a lot of legal responsible people, why don't you pour that same kind of energy into trying to make sure people get help? Or you're pressuring, instead of asking your local politician or your congressman or woman to say, hey, write new gun laws, why don't you ask them to get more resources for people that are dealing with the illness, or give law enforcement the tools they need to properly fight it? Either way, I don't see you coming up with a solution to the problem. We're trying to donate your resources to making sure that the people that do have the solution have the funding to go out and make it happen. So I think that's a way to really show somebody's bias, because either we care about people or we don't. But as one really interesting lady said to me, it's all about the way that you die. She didn't care because I wasn't threatened to die the way that she thinks it's unacceptable. So as long as you're dying in ways that people deem are acceptable, it's not a big deal. So maybe they're okay with people dying by opioids or, drug overdoses. So I don't know. I just think it shows a bunch of hypocrisy, because you don't really care about people. You just care about control.
Jara?
Very well said. I don't really care what anybody says. Addiction is a choice. You choose to go down that road. And then it takes over you, and it's a hard thing to overcome. But I think what's really interesting is in the article that you sent us, it said that this study was like from 2015, right?
Well, so the CDC data is from 2015.
Okay, because I looked up the CDC death and mortality rates back in March, and drugs weren't even in the top 10 things that killed people in 2016 or 2017. And guns weren't either. You know, it was heart disease, cancer, unintentional injuries, respiratory diseases, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, flu, kidney disease, and suicide. Okay, those were the top 10 things that killed people in 2016 and 2017. Now, none of those, only one of those things is a choice. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionately, advocating for Second Amendment, is because I don't want something taken away from me that helps me get to choose how I live. Okay. Yeah. I have an option here to defend myself against anybody that would want to harm me. Am I guaranteed to win? No. Okay. But, the opioids are I do believe it is a crisis, but according to the numbers, and you don't really even know, can we really depend on our government to give us accurate information, accurate statistical information? Because it seems to be, this statistical data from 2015 that you have, and then I looked up on the CDC website, the death and mortality rates, it's very conflicting. How do we know what's real and how do we know it's not real? But what we know that is a fact, okay, is that if we are an armed society, we have a better chance of battling people who would want to harm us. We can't depend on other people to do that. So I'm a little wary of the numbers there.
Yeah. You know what, if I can, one thing I think that we never look at it from an angle, never look at it from this angle. We have a growth with drugs and drug addictions, right? Particularly opioids. All right. So as long as it's growing, you have to look at the things that happen because of that, right? So you get more people strung out on drugs, you get more people desperate, they do more things to feed their addiction and so forth. It's a vicious cycle, right? So at some point, those crimes could become violent crimes, robberies, assaults, et cetera, et cetera. Why would the problem of drugs be growing, opioids, if you will, be growing, and you be alarmed about that as a society? And then at the same time say, we understand drugs beget violence, but we want you to be unarmed while the drug population grows. Thus, violence becomes more rampant, but we want you to disarm in the process. Yeah, it's a crazy philosophy.
Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, and on top of that, the reports of, first responders being severely injured by people, and you probably know about this, Sean, because you probably know about Narcan, right?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay, so Narcan can immediately, within minutes, just reverse the effects of drugs, of certain drugs, and it's it's really, really safe. But then you get people that are super mad about it because you just reversed their high that they paid all this money for, and then they get mad and they assault and injure these first responders. So it's like an epidemic in a lot of ways, just like you said. I'm agreeing with you, is basically what I'm saying. And you have to kill the weed by the root, right? You get rid of that, you get rid of a lot of other issues.
Personally, I don't think that first responders, paramedics, EMTs should be required to administer Narcan, which I realize is a very tough stance, but that's where I stand. So, guys, the hits keep coming for Sig Sauer. Another P320 lawsuit. Virginia deputy sues Sig over a shattered femur. She says that her P320 discharged as she was removing her holster from her duty belt. It was a fully holstered duty weapon. Discharge sent a bullet into her leg. This is February 7th, 2018. And I don't know. I'm not 100% sure where this one's going to go. Obviously, I don't want to immediately throw Sig under the bus for this, because we have to see a lot of things. Could be a mistake, could be a firearm failure. But what do you guys think about this story and the whole P320 saga as a whole?
I would say as Sig's got some issues going on, the 320, 365. I mean, they got some stuff going on out there. MPX, MPC, they got some issues. But what I will say is, once again, we have to wait on all the details, right? But let's just say that the weapon, let's take her for what it's worth. Let's say it was in her duty holster. She was taking her duty rig off with the firearm completely holstered. And just by moving the gun, it fired. Just by moving the belt, the gun fired. Yeah, it's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a big problem. I mean, I don't know how you protect that if that comes out to be the truth. And ballistics will tell us the truth. So how do you defend that? Like, you can't. If that comes out to be now, if we find out something later, she was unholstering the gun, she actually did have the gun in her hand, she was trying to put it in another hole. If we find out there's another moving component, we have to, reanalyze this entire thing. But just taking her at what she says as the truth. The gun was in the belt. I was taking my belt off, dude. I was going home from work. I was just taking my belt off, trying to get in some more comfortable clothes, and I got shot. That's going to be a problem.
It's a huge problem. I have to apply my logic circuit to this one. And I'm just like, I don't know. This sounds too far-fetched to me. Like, I've never heard anything else like this. So this is definitely a tough one. I think because the 320 has had so many problems, so many lawsuits, all the voluntary fixes, or I don't even voluntary, what do they call them? Not a recall.
No, yeah. Voluntary recalls.
Yeah, voluntary fix, whatever. It's like you almost have to believe it just because it's so ludicrous in its origin. But yeah, this is a tough one, Jara.
I mean, you don't really hear about this with a Glock.
Oh, with the plug. With the plug.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm probably going to get some hate from some Patreons for that one. But, they have had a lot of problems. I'm wondering if there's just some slack in the manufacturing. I'm actually a fan of Sig. I own 2 of them, and I was really disappointed. I was excited about the 365, and then I was disappointed when they had to recall it. So were several of my clients that bought 365s. And I'm wondering if it's just, some laziness in the company. But I have a really hard time believing that a gun would just discharge in a holster.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, to me, I can't think of an internal situation where that would happen. So I really feel like there's going to be more to this story if we just wait.
Yeah, I think you're right. Portland State University police fatally shoot man who was trying to break up a fight.
Oh,
wow. So the guy was trying to break up a fight outside a sports bar. Multiple witnesses said that he was doing so, and then was fatally shot by campus police right after it happened. And this is always the tough one. So witnesses say that he was trying to break up a fight. During the scuffle, a gun fell out of his holster. Witnesses told the news station, and when he reached for it, officers fired at him. This is the worst possible thing ever. Like, we got the FBI guy doing backflips, shooting people. This guy was just trying to break up a fight. Is it holster retention that's a problem these days? Is it, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this one. What do you guys think?
Why did he reach for the gun?
I mean, all right, so let me say this. When we talk about the FBI, the backflipping FBI agent in Denver, Colorado, I think he reached for that gun completely out of instinct. We talked about the story a while back where there was a guy in a hotel room. He showed somebody his gun. People saw it through the window. They called the police. The police came. They were in the hall of the hotel. The guy had been drinking a little bit. They're instructing him to walk towards them. They're saying all kinds of crazy commands that even as a sober person, which granted I'm not very often, were hard for me to understand. The guy's shorts start to fall off. He reaches to pull them up, and they shoot him 20 times or however many times it was. These situations are kind of crazy. So we've got this FBI agent. Like, the guy's reaction to pull up his shorts when they started to fall down was completely not something he did consciously. It was just completely unconscious thought. I got pulled over not too long ago, had a gun in the car. I was in Denver, Colorado. Had my gun legally, no problem whatsoever there. The cop felt uncomfortable, so he made me get out in 30-degree weather, just wearing a t-shirt. So subconsciously, I kept wanting to put my hands in my pockets because I was freaking cold and shivering visibly. And every time I reached to put my hands in my pockets, he would scream at me. And it was crazy because I didn't even realize that I was doing it. By the time I processed that he was yelling at me, I realized, holy crap, how did my hands get in my pockets? I don't even know what's happening right now. And it's those kind of things. So the backflipping FBI agent sees his gun out, obviously starts to panic, reaches for that gun. The guy pulling his shorts up, shorts start to fall down. He's embarrassed, starts to pull those shorts up, gets shot with an AR-15. And now I think that it's something very similar in this guy trying to break up a fight. His gun drops. He's like, ugh, starts to reach for that gun, and it ends his life. That's my thought on the matter. It's just completely subconscious.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, I just think that in that particular situation, they were fighting, like there were no weapons involved. I don't really feel like the gun drawing would have been necessary at that point.
I don't think. You mean for the officers or for the?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fight.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, these cops, like, they literally have a millisecond to respond to something. They see a gun, they're like, oh no, and they start to draw and they push out, and the guy reaches for the gun. They don't know what the situation is. They just walk up to a scene where there's multiple people scuffling. This guy obviously was scuffling with the rest of them. Yes, he was trying to break up a fight. What about what about you walk up in an alleyway and you see a man with a woman pushed up against the wall and she's yelling rape, and you assume, okay, holy crap, I need to interdict on this situation because this guy's trying to rape this woman. So you draw your firearm, you scream, stop what you're doing. The guy does not stop what he's doing, and you choose to end his life. Okay, well, that guy was an undercover cop, and she was a hooker, and she was just screaming rape because he was trying to arrest her, and nothing actually happened. This is a real life situation that actually happened. Concealed carrier burnt this cop down, and it's one of those situations, like, you don't know exactly what's happening. So these officers show up on the scene. They see multiple people scuffling. They see a gun drop to the ground. They see someone reach for the gun. They have to make that choice. I would never want to live, and I would never want my first responders to live in a world where they can't react to that situation, because guess what? If they wait 2 seconds, that guy picks up that gun. Maybe he's a good guy. Maybe he's a bad guy. Maybe they don't go home to their kids and wife.
I think that it comes in, and because I understand that the guy that unfortunately lost his life, I believe he was up to no good. I will say, God bless his soul. I don't think he was up to no good. And it's unfortunate. I will say this though: if you are responding to a situation. Well, let's take it to him first. So you're trying to break up a fight. You're trying to be the good guy. You're breaking up the fight. You do have a gun on you. I don't mean to be that guy, but I have to take it back to understanding what you should and shouldn't get into when you have a gun on you. There's certain things you can't be involved in. And then 2, if you are going to be involved, you have to make sure that you're prepared for that, right? So I don't know the details. I don't know if he had the gun in a holster. I don't know if he was just carrying it in his belt. I don't know, right? But either way, the gun came out. And that's a lot of things that we, as instructors, we should be trying to tell people and teach people. But one of the very, very basic things that I'm pretty sure any instructor worth their soul teaches you is that when a cop gets there, you don't reach for a gun, man. You just don't. It's not something that should be done. Granted, you were doing the right thing. Gun fell from your waist. It's a mental thing, right? You drop something valuable to you, you go to pick it up, right? You drop your car keys, you pick them up. You drop money, you pick it up. You drop your wallet, you pick it up. You drop your gun, you try to pick it up. But it's understanding that, or being aware of your surroundings, that there's law enforcement here, and it might not look really good if I reach for my gun and put it back in my waist right now. Unfortunately, he made the wrong decision. The cops had a split decision to make, and it's an unfortunate chain of events. I don't really want to fault anybody. I just think that it was unfortunately a good guy made a move where the cops didn't know him. They didn't know what to perceive, and unfortunately somebody got hurt. It's just unfortunate.
I'm not gonna roll in and break up the fight. I'm gonna let them beat the shit out of each other because they're stupid.
You got a gun on you. Stay out. I mean, I would have that, and I don't mean to mock the dead, right? I don't make.
That's for.
I know you're not doing it.
That gun is for me. That gun is to defend me. Okay, and people I love. Okay, it's not for me to be getting involved in other people's drama. You know, I mean, and you mentioned the situation with, the cop getting burned down with the girl that was screaming rape. I wouldn't have taken that shot either, because because it wasn't a good shot to take. I could have shot her, so I wouldn't have fired the gun anyway. I would have just held him at gunpoint, called the police. I would have made him stay there and be like, if you move, I'm going to shoot you, but you're going to stay right there until somebody else, a third party, comes here to help us deal with this situation. Because I don't know if you're really being raped, and I don't know who the hell you are. You don't shoot people until you have the information.
Just say no other choice.
No other choice or the information.
No other choice.
Yeah. Take the plug.
No, I'm with you. I totally understand. I always like to liken it like this, like what if a like dildo fell out of your pocket? How embarrassed would you be, and how quick would you try to pick it up?
I don't care either.
Only fast enough to smack you in the face with it.
All right, guys, it's time for I'm Offended. This one is it's pretty quick. Left sees potential Supreme Court of the United States nominee as a Second Amendment extremist, and I say good. And all I've really got to say about this is Brett Kavanaugh. He has been put forward by our president Donald Trump as the next Supreme Court nominee. This is why I voted for Donald Trump. In my biggest wishes, never did I think that the current sitting president would be able to appoint 2 people to the Supreme Court of the United States. I thought maybe 1. In my wildest dreams, I thought maybe 2, and now it's happening. So, I mean, this is why. Like this is it. Regardless of anything else, whether you love, whether you hate, if you like the Second Amendment, if you like firearms, this is the dream. This is everything that you hoped for and more, all wrapped up in one. Thoughts, guys?
I want to know I want to know the deal that Anthony Kennedy got to retire.
It's weird, right? There's got to be some kind of health concern.
There's nothing no, I think he was persuaded to retire. I mean, I do. I really feel like a deal was made by someone over there and said, "Hey, man, you're getting on up there. Maybe it's time for you to retire." I think that this was strategic. I really do. I don't feel like this is just a coincidence. But nevertheless, I am excited about it. But that's just my conspiracy theory.
All right, Kevin.
So I will be totally honest and say this. I've known Kavanaugh's name. I'm familiar with him, but there's a difference between knowing and actually knowing, right? So as he's gotten appointed, I've done more and more research on the guys, and I'm still not to a conclusion. Obviously, I'm a fan of his stance on the Second Amendment. Clearly, I'm a fan of that. But I think that putting people in those positions that make sure they preserve rights, because the cool thing about people that believe in the Second Amendment is normally they believe in your Constitution. So knowing we got a constitutionalist up there that's going to stand up for us is always nice. It's always positive. It's always great. So I mean, I like the appointment. I like the fact that we got a little bit more security for whatever it's worth, and I hope that guy does a great job. I don't know about how he got the position. I don't know. Now she's got me real curious about a conspiracy. I might have to do some more Googling. Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of like a good story. But if he's gonna do a good job, he's gonna stand up and be firm. I'm with it. We just need more. I like the appointment because we need more people in positions of power that understand the common everyday person more so than people that are just screaming louder than everybody else. I really like somebody who can't be emotionally persuaded, that deals with black and white. I do like that.
All right. Good stuff, guys.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. I'm sorry, guys. I'm moving around a lot. I'm getting my air conditioner fixed. It's hot in this house. Hold on.
No problem, man. Next up is the full auto news segment. It's basically stories the real media won't talk about. Jerry, you picked a story. What is that one?
There's a Mexican police agency that has gotten their firearms taken away from them because they suck at shooting so badly, and they have been replaced with slingshots.
Oh, slingshots?
Yes.
What?
Replaced with slingshots. So these law enforcement officials in this town in Mexico now they're like, it's like David and Goliath shit. Okay. So now they have little ball bearings and slingshots and sweet little holsters for them too.
I see those holsters. I don't know what's happening right now. Like, slingshots are harder to shoot than guns, in my opinion.
I know, right?
I've got multiple slingshots. I'm a way better pistol shot.
This is what makes it so hilarious. Okay, so what we're talking about is this town in Mexico. Their police force has been disarmed. And the reason that they've been disarmed is because they suck at shooting so badly. Literally, they had like 140 person police force, 30 people pass the shooting proficiency. I mean, what the hell, right? So they said, we're taking away your guns and we're going to give you these sweet slingshots with these ball bearings, and you can put them on your belt, on your holster, and this is how you are going to fight crime.
Oh my goodness. I mean, some stories just can't be made up.
Is this real life right now? Like, I don't even understand what's happening.
I am serious as a heart attack right now. I mean, there's a picture, if you look at it, it's on the firearmblog.com, and this guy has a slingshot, and inside the waistband holster for his slingshot, and then the little cords are just coming out like just a really long belt that's just like draping down his thigh, and he's just like, but he's got these sweet like camo sleeves on, so it's like he's like, I'm a bad MFer, peep my slingshot.
So let me ask this:
right there.
If you're,
and then the other dude, hold on, the other dude has a drop leg tack holster for his.
Oh yeah.
Oh god. Just imagine though, if you're out patrolling and you're just kind of going along and you see this fight and you're like, oh my gosh, and one of the guys drops a gun and you bust out that slingshot and you peg him with a ball bearing right in the eye, in that T-zone, if you will, and boom. Like, how much of a baller would you be in the department?
I mean, this is just like, to me, this screams Mexican Napoleon Dynamite. Because now these guys are running around with their slingshots. They're going to be pulling tater tots out of their pockets, and they're going to ride llamas around Mexico. I mean, you can't make this up. This is hilarious.
It is amazing.
This is what Mexico has come to.
There's one part of me that when I first read that, man, I wanted to be like, okay, somebody needs to just go ahead and fly me down to Mexico. Give me 2 or 3 good instructors, and let's please God, let's help.
Can we go together?
I will go with you. We can do it.
Okay.
We can do it. I want to be put up in a nice resort though, and I want all the bells and whistles. But we got to get. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna send an email. There's no harm in sending an email, right? Let's see if we can get down there. But they obviously need some help, man. And I'm so serious. Like, I would really go train them. They really need some help. I do think it is very hilarious.
I'll tell you what's more hilarious. Let me tell you what's more hilarious before you say that. Okay. This isn't the first time that they've been disarmed and given slingshots. It happened in 2007 too.
So crazy.
Why can't I didn't do like I didn't look at the economy of the PD and the surrounding areas, but are there no? Now I'm willing to go. Like I said, we can go. Let's go. But are there no decent shooters, trainers, instructors?
Man, listen, it ain't like Sicario, okay?
All right, so
it's not like Sicario. They don't have anything down there. They don't know. They are spraying and praying down there.
Apparently, and it's crazy. All right, guys, that will do it for the stories. Before we wrap up, Jara Hutchins, remind us where can people find you online and keep up with all the cool stuff you're up to?
My page, Clearing the Chamber, is on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Clearing the Chamber, and my website is clearingthechamber.com.
You got any cool stuff coming up?
I do. I'm headed to Vegas this weekend. I'm going to do some fun stuff there. But I'm actually going on the website that you sent me to do some TCCC stuff. And then I've gotten a bunch of certifications since I retired. So I got Chief Range Safety Officer. I'm rolling with that. And then level 3 and 4 Personal Protection Officer. So I'm just continuing the gun training. That's my deal. I'm super excited about it.
Nice. That's awesome. Keep up the great work, Jara.
Thank you.
Kevin, how about you? Where can people find you? Keep up with all the cool stuff you're doing as well.
Oh man, you can Facebook. It's NOC for No Other Choice. NOC Firearms Training. It's the same thing for Instagram. Just no spaces. Same thing for Twitter. You can also look up KD of NOC on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also look up Kevin Dixie, D as in dog, IXIE on Facebook. You can go to the website nootherchoice.net, and that's how you can find me. And on YouTube, NOC Firearms Channel. That's how you can find me.
Kevin, what's Aiming for the Truth?
Aiming for the Truth is a response to trying to find out or trying to deal with the truth around violence. So the elevator speech is this. We're aiming for the truth around violence. We want to kill violence at its roots. We don't want to just throw things against the wall. So in that focus, we are looking at mental health or mental illness, the way it affects people in our society and how it can impact violence. We are looking at education. We're looking at employment and employment skills. So we can get people educated and employed so they aren't resorting to things that are violent. They can have a more of an equity built up into their life, if you will. We also look at rebuilding a family. That way, not only can we correct mom and dad, but we can also assist them in being more involved in their kids, dealing with education and just sports and all kind of things. So we can not only help, but we are solving generations at one time. We're not just fixing one person, we're fixing entire families, helping them understand that family is the cornerstone of society, and I would love to have it back. We do all that to help build equity into people's lives. And once they have the equity, once they understand what they're fighting for, once they understand that I'm going to be a better member of society and I don't want to be a part of the violence, then we show them how to protect that equity. And there comes the Second Amendment. Once they need to understand what the insurance policy is. Aiming for the Truth is a great program. We will be in Columbia, South Carolina, coming up here in a couple of weeks, July 21st. At the Thunder Tower Harley-Davidson in South Carolina. So yeah, it's all also about bridging people and letting everybody from all walks of life talk, right? So you got an event like that that's going to draw out a bunch of people from all kind of areas, but especially the inner city at a Harley dealership. So it's about really, it's so, I love it. I just love the way that looks. So that's going to be great, but that's what we do, man. And it's our way of giving back.
All right. I absolutely love it. And guys, if you guys do go to Mexico to train those officers, do not let Jara drink the Adios Pantalones because it'll make the whole thing really, really weird. I think.
Yeah, I don't want to have to spend my night protecting her because she's pantsless and drunk. So
pants are for losers. Pants are for losers.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Two of my favorite people on the show tonight. Totally appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget, leave us a review in iTunes. Find us all over the place. Google Podcasts, iTunes, all that great stuff. Check out our advertisers, Patriot Patch Company and Manticore Arms. And as always, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. We'll see you next week.
Good show, guys.